Fight between government forces there and al-Qaeda militants for the cities of Fallujah and Ramadi. At this moment, there seems to be no sign of this ending at this point. A health official in Anbar Province is saying that over the last 2 weeks, at least 60 people have died and almost 300 others wounded. As the two sides battle over territory U.S. troops once fought and died for, many are questioning if the U.S. should step back in. Joining us now, Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry, who's also an Iraq War veteran. Congressman, great to have you here today. I know there are a lot of folks who are very concerned about what's happening right now on the ground there in Ramadi and Fallujah, particularly for the fact that you and your fellow soldiers out there fought and died in those areas where al-Qaeda seems to be taking a stronghold once again. Talk to me about the emotions that are running through your mind right now.
Well, yeah, we do know that al-Qaeda, they raised the flag over territory, which is something that we haven't seen. Of course, the president has told us that al-Qaeda was on the run and in dismay and disbanding and so on and so forth, and clearly it's not true. For people like me that spent a year away from my family, I missed the birth of my first child, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I came home unhurt. I don't have any of these unseen injuries, but for people, the Pennsylvania Guard, the 2nd Combat Brigade team, lost 17 soldiers in Anbar Province. For those families, for that little girl who doesn't have a father, for that mother who doesn't have a son, they must be saying, and rightly so, what was that for? What was that worth? I mean, we secured the victory. These soldiers, these service members of all branches secured this victory, and now this president, this administration simply handed it away, just gave it away. They hadn't earned it to give it away. And so it's emotional from the standpoint that we're very disappointed. We wonder what that was all about, and we're quite honestly, I'm furious about it. I'm furious, and I think all Americans should be. What was the point of that whole thing if we were just going to hand it away?
In essence, you feel the government's let you down.
Yeah, well, I don't know if the government has, there are a whole lot of people, but this administration in particular, I understand, and most people do, that look, if you disagree with the policy, and many people did, and we respect that, but at the point when the president took office, the victory had been secured, the work essentially had been done, all he had to do was safeguard it. It's like handing your brand new car that you sacrificed for to your friend, somebody you trusted, and instead of taking it down the block and putting it in the garage, they'd run it over a cliff. And somehow that's supposed to be okay. It is not okay. We expected him to do the right thing, and we understand the status of forces agreement might have been difficult to secure with the unsure government at the time, but the one sure government we had was the United States, and they should have worked extra hard to make sure it happened. And everything I read shows us that they did very little to secure that status of forces agreement, to secure the victory, and now we've got a resurgent al-Qaeda. And what are we going to have to do? Deal with these folks again coming to America's shores, America's interests, while we have already fought this fight, sacrificed people, are walking around without limbs, with disfigurements, with emotional issues, with broken families, for what? That is the question, for what? And I think that's a reasonable question.
It's really heartbreaking, I know, to think about the fact about the folks who are living with these disabilities and those who've lost their lives. What about a growing number of people who are starting to say, perhaps we need to rethink our policy and perhaps recommit ourselves to securing those cities and trying to bring more stability back into Iraq? Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it... Well, I can't say that I think it is. I mean, how do you tell somebody that doing your work again after you've done it once and done it well and done it effectively, now you have to go back and do it again, especially, and I hate to say this with all due respect, under this administration and this president. Maybe under a different one, but this one, and I think Bob Gates' book shows it, this gentleman has no interest. And so we have no faith, we have no trust in him in the role of commander-in-chief to have us go back in, boots on the ground, back into Iraq to do the work we've already done once, done well and done effectively for some political narrative, especially when we think, and we believe, many of us, that the reason we didn't sign the status of forces agreement was because of the upcoming November election, after the 2010 presidential election in Iraq, and things didn't go the way America wanted it to. So when we think that the president might do things for political reasons, we are unwilling to put our lives on the line again for that.
I understand, Congressman. It's a very emotional subject, a very emotional issue for so many of you. We thank you so much for your service, and we thank you for your insights.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.